In a world that glorifies noise, it's easy to mistake the loudest voices for the strongest. People scream, shout, and put on grand displays, thinking they're proving their power. But let me tell you something. Real strength doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't parade around in flashy colors or demand applause from an audience too blind to see through the cracks. Real strength is quiet, patient, and unbothered. And those who rely on noise, they're just trying to drown out their own insecurities. The ones screaming the loudest are often the first to crumble when life gets real. They build these fragile facades because they're terrified of being seen for what they truly are. Weak, scared, and desperate for validation. Their bravado isn't armor. It's paper-thin smoke and mirrors. You ever notice how someone can talk endlessly about how untouchable they are, yet when the storm hits, they fold like cheap chairs? That's not resilience. It's performance art designed to fool even themselves. Life has no patience for such charades. When the pressure mounts, all that noise becomes nothing more than empty echoes bouncing off hollow walls. Real power doesn't need validation. It doesn't crave attention or recognition because it knows its worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. Think of silence as your weapon, not passive submission, but calculated restraint. While others waste energy shouting into the void, you observe, plan, and prepare. You don't flinch at chaos because you've learned to thrive within it. Those who make noise are addicted to the illusion of control, mistaking volume for authority. But true authority comes from knowing yourself when no one's watching, carrying your pain silently instead of parading it for pity trophies. Let them think you're weak if they must. Let them misinterpret your calm demeanor as submission. The truth is, while they're busy throwing tantrums to prove dominance, you're sharpening your blade behind closed doors. Their loudness makes them predictable. Yours leaves them guessing. Every word they scream reveals another layer of insecurity. Every threat exposing the soft underbelly they desperately try to hide. Meanwhile, you sit quietly in the shadows, letting their actions paint a clear picture of their weaknesses. Patience isn't passivity, it's strategy. And when the time comes to act, it won't be with fanfare or dramatic gestures. It'll be swift, precise, and devastating. There's something terrifying about silence because it forces people to confront truths they'd rather ignore. The loud ones hate it. They can't stand the idea of existing without constant validation. So they fill the air with meaningless chatter, hoping to mask their fear of irrelevance. But silence? Silence demands accountability. It strips away pretenses and exposes raw vulnerability. That's why they push so hard to provoke you, to drag you down into their chaotic circus where everyone plays by their rules. Don't give them the satisfaction. Stay calm, stay focused, and watch as their frustration grows. Your indifference will eat them alive. When life tests them, and it always does, they collapse under the weight of their own fragility. All that bravado melts away, leaving behind trembling shells of insecurity. But you've been forged in silence. You've carried demons without making a show of it. Rebuilt yourself after every fall without seeking applause. Pain doesn't define you. It shapes you. And when the dust settles, you'll still be standing while they scramble to pick up the pieces of their shattered egos. Because here's the thing. Noise doesn't win wars. Strategy does. Resilience does. While they were busy entertaining the crowd, you were preparing for battle. So stop wasting breath trying to convince anyone of your worth. Stop playing their game. Instead, focus on building something real, something unshakable. Let your actions speak louder than their desperate pleas for relevance. Be the shadow creeping in the dark, unnoticed until it's too late. Real wolves don't howl for attention. They hunt in silence. And when they strike, it's over before anyone realizes what happened. That's the kind of power you should aspire to. The kind that waits, observes, and moves with purpose. Remember this. The world respects resilience, not racket. It admires those who take their hits without flinching, who endure pain without broadcasting it for validation. Those who rise again without needing applause. They're the ones who leave lasting impacts. So keep working on yourself without seeking approval. Keep moving forward without explanation. One day, when the noise fades and they're left staring at their empty reflections, they'll realize you were never weak. You were just smart enough not to waste energy on pointless drama. By then, though, it'll be too late. You'll already be miles ahead, unbroken and unstoppable. Weakness wears many masks, but none more deceptive than arrogance. People cling to bravado like it's some kind of shield, convinced that if they scream loud enough, no one will see the cracks beneath. But here's the cold truth. The louder someone shouts, the weaker they truly are. Their noise isn't strength. It's a cry for help disguised as dominance. It's a frantic attempt to convince themselves they're invincible while secretly fearing they're anything but. These are the people who confuse intimidation with power, bullying with bravery. They strut around like peacocks, feathers puffed out, hoping nobody notices how hollow they really are. You know the type. They bark orders, throw tantrums, and make threats, all while wearing a mask of confidence thicker than steel. But peel back that facade, and what do you find? Fear. Pure, unfiltered terror of being exposed for what they are, fragile, insecure, and utterly lost. Their aggression isn't strength, it's compensation. A desperate bid to cover up the fact that they've never faced their demons head-on. They're cowards masquerading as warriors, too afraid to look inward and confront the chaos simmering inside them. So they project it outward instead, lashing out at anyone who dares challenge their carefully constructed illusion. And oh, how they love attention. Attention addicts. That's what they are. They crave it like oxygen, feeding off the reactions of others to fuel their fragile egos. They want you to react, to fight back, to validate their existence by engaging in their nonsense. Why? Because without an audience, they cease to matter. Without someone to bounce their noise off, they're forced to face the silence, and silence terrifies them. It strips away their props, leaving them naked and vulnerable. In the quiet, there's nowhere to hide. No distractions to numb the gnawing doubt, whispering that maybe, just maybe, they're not as untouchable as they pretend. But here's the beauty of real strength. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't require an audience to feel powerful. True power thrives in solitude, growing stronger with each moment spent facing oneself honestly. The weak ones can't handle solitude. They collapse under the weight of their own thoughts, unable to survive without external affirmation. But you've learned to carry your pain silently, to wear it like armor rather than flaunt it like a trophy. You've stared into the abyss and emerged unbroken, tempered by the fires of struggle without needing anyone to cheer you on. This difference between noise and silence is what sets the strong apart from the weak. The weak rely on chaos to distract themselves from their inadequacies. They create storms to avoid confronting the calm that would expose their vulnerabilities. But the strong, they embrace the calm. They use it to sharpen their minds, refine their focus, and prepare for the inevitable battles ahead. While the weak exhaust themselves, shouting into the void, the strong conserve their energy, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to strike. And when they do, it's not with rage or recklessness. It's with precision, efficiency, and lethal intent. Think of it this way. The weak are like fireworks, bright, explosive, and gone in an instant. They burn hot and fast, leaving behind nothing but smoke and ash. But the strong, they're embers, slow burning, steady, and enduring. They don't dazzle with flashy displays because they don't need to. Their presence alone is enough to send shivers down spines. They don't announce their arrival. They simply exist, unshaken by the winds of adversity. And when the time comes to act, they move with purpose, leaving devastation in their wake. People like this, the weak ones, they'll try to drag you into their circus. They'll poke, prod, and provoke, desperate to elicit a reaction. They want you to snap, to lose your cool, to play their game on their terms. Why? Because they understand only one language: chaos. They thrive on disorder because it keeps them from having to face themselves. But you refuse to engage. You stay calm, composed, and unbothered, letting their antics unravel them further. Your silence unnerves them because it forces them to confront the reality they've been avoiding. That maybe, just maybe, they're not as strong as they claim. Their frustration grows with every passing second. You deny them the satisfaction of a reaction. They lash out harder, shout louder, and double down on their tactics, revealing more of their insecurity with each failed attempt to break you. Meanwhile, you remain unmoved, watching and waiting. You know the truth. Their downfall is inevitable. They're too consumed by their own noise to notice the storm gathering in the distance. And when it finally hits, it'll come without warning, swift, unforgiving, and final. Here's the lesson. Never underestimate the power of silence. It's not emptiness, it's potential. It's not submission, it's strategy. While the weak waste their energy proving themselves to the world, you harness yours for growth, preparation, and survival. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to fight dirty to win. You just need to stay focused, stay patient, and let your actions speak for themselves. Because when the dust settles and the echoes fade, it won't be the loudest voice that's remembered. It'll be the quiet one who struck decisively and left no room for doubt. Life isn't fair. It never promised to be. What it did promise, however, was hardship. It guaranteed storms, trials, and moments that test the very core of your being. And in those moments, the distinction between the strong and the weak becomes painfully clear. The weak fold. They crumble under the weight of their own expectations, collapsing into heaps of self-pity and regret. But the strong, they adapt. They evolve. They transform suffering into fuel, using it to forge something unbreakable within themselves. This is the essence of true power. The ability to endure without breaking, to grow stronger in silence, while the world screams itself hoarse. Silence isn't passive. It's revolutionary. It's a rebellion against the noise, the chaos, the endless barrage of distractions designed to keep you complacent. In silence, you find clarity. You strip away the unnecessary layers of drama and focus on what truly matters: survival. Not just physical survival, but mental, emotional, and spiritual resilience. The weak succumb to despair because they lack the tools to navigate the darkness. But you've learned to embrace it. You've discovered that the quiet moments, the ones most people run from, are where the real work happens, where growth takes root, where strength is built. People misunderstand silence. They mistake it for weakness, for submission, for giving up. But they couldn't be more wrong. Silence is choice. It's discipline. It's the conscious decision to step back, observe, and calculate before acting. It's the understanding that not every battle needs to be fought immediately. Not every insult requires retaliation. Sometimes the greatest power lies in restraint, in choosing not to engage, not to react, not to feed the fire of someone else's insecurity. By refusing to play their game, you take away their control. You render their provocations meaningless, leaving them flailing in the void of their own inadequacy. And let's talk about inadequacy for a moment. The weak are obsessed with it. They spend their lives trying to compensate for their perceived shortcomings, projecting false confidence to mask their inner turmoil. They measure their worth by how much attention they receive, how many likes they garner, how loudly they can shout above the crowd. But here's the irony. The more they strive for validation, the less authentic they become. Their identities dissolve into a series of performances, each one more desperate than the last. They're actors in a play they don't even understand, chasing applause from an audience that doesn't care. You, on the other hand, reject this cycle. You refuse to base your value on external metrics. You know that true strength comes from within, from the battles you fought and won without anyone noticing, from the scars you carry proudly because they represent resilience. You don't need validation because you've already validated yourself. You've looked into the mirror and accepted both your flaws and your potential. You've embraced the duality of human nature, the light and the dark, and used it to propel yourself forward. This is what separates you from the herd. This is what makes you dangerous. Dangerous, yes, but also misunderstood. People fear what they don't understand, and they don't understand silence. To them, it's unsettling, unnerving, even threatening. It forces them to confront their own insecurities, to question whether their noise actually means anything. And that terrifies them. So they lash out, trying to provoke you into joining their circus. They want you to shout, to scream, to match their chaos with chaos of your own. But you won't. You can't. Because you know that noise doesn't solve problems, it creates them. Only silence can cut through the clutter, revealing the path forward. This is your legacy. Strength that doesn't need to be seen to be real. Power that doesn't need to be shouted to be felt. Impact that resonates long after the noise has faded. You're not here to impress anyone. You're not here to seek approval. You're here to survive, to thrive, to overcome. And you'll do it on your terms, in your time, without needing permission from anyone. When the dust settles and the smoke clears, you'll still be standing, calm, focused, and unshakable. Because while the weak were busy proving themselves to the world, you were busy becoming something greater, unbreakable. So let them shout, let them scream, let them exhaust themselves, chasing validation and relevance. You have better things to do. You have a revolution to lead, a quiet revolution that doesn't announce itself, but changes everything it touches. And when the world finally wakes up to the truth that the loudest voices were always the weakest, it'll be too late. You'll already be far ahead, leaving behind a trail of undeniable impact. Silent, steady, unstoppable,